Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, GamerK, and it is time to end the month of February, and where I am right now, it's had a bit of a downpour, and more rain is to come soon, and I figured for the end of the month, let's do an old game that is definitely over 10 years old, because here at the Game Hub, we handle the bizarre, the old, and sometimes the not well-known games. Because that's the kind of thing I love to do. I love talking about the odd games that doesn't get that much in the spotlight, or games that other reviewers just won't review for some reason. And today I'm going to be doing an old review of one of my favorite drama games. A game that is definitely story-based, but it's still one heck of a game. We will be going over the 2010 game by Studio Quantic Dream, Heavy Rain. And Heavy Rain was one of my first games that introduced the decisions make your story happen game. And that's what Quantic Dream does well, because they did this game, they did Beyond Two Souls, and they did Detroit Become Human, games I will get to later in the year or sometime next year, depending on how I schedule things. But Heavy Rain was the first game of this genre, and it shows how brilliant it is. It takes a more story-based... hang on. Yeah. I just got to go over my notes. It's more of a story-based, somewhat linear gameplay, but it has a great story. It's almost like an interactive TV series, and done very well in the crime genre area. And this game, even though it's a little bit over 10 years old, I still love this game with a passion, because this game does everything it can to throw you for a loop and makes you enjoy the game instead of making it feel like a chore to play. Now, I'm going to say this. It is in the crime genre, so there is going to be some twists and turns. But overall, the game is fantastic. The story of the game is pretty ingenious, actually. After the prologue of the game, it takes place maybe a year after the events of the prologue, where a tragedy happens, and we are bringing into the Origami killer, a murderer who kidnaps young boys and holds them ransom. Well, he doesn't hold them ransom, but he holds them hostage. And later in the game, it's revealed that the fathers of each victim were sent a package. And in that package is a trial for them to go see how far they'll go to save their son. And I'll get to that in a little bit. It feels something that could have been an epic Criminal Minds episode. But at the same time, I'm glad that it was created for this specific game. Because if they had to do an episode about this, it would kind of take away all the intrigue about it. I'm just saying. And in this game, we play 4 characters in this game. And each one has a connection to the investigation of the Origami killer in one way or another. And every single one... normally when you play as multiple characters, it kind of throws you for a loop and what you gotta do. But in this one, it all balances itself out. We play as Ethan Mars, who is the father of the latest victim, Sean Mars. And it's revealed in the prologue that he had this fantastic life as an architect until one day his older son, Jason, is killed in a car accident. And a year later, things go worse. Being divorced, sharing custody of his youngest son, Sean, and things go for a loop. We also play as Madison Page, who is a journalist who is on the trail of the Origami Killer and finds herself clashing in Ethan's life as he is the latest victim of the killer. We play as Norman Jayden, an FBI agent who has this, I love Norman's character above any other detective in any game. Okay, that's not really true. I do like a lot of other detectives, but Norman is definitely up there because he's so snarky, but he acts so cool. It's picture Spencer Reed in a business suit. That's pretty much it. And he's got the ARI, which is digital sunglasses, and stands for Added Reality Interface. It allows him to create any environment around him with these glasses, and basically to investigate all the crimes, to investigate the evidence, and basically you'll be doing all your evidence gathering and analysis via the ARI, which I gotta admit, it's pretty cool. But we don't have that technology at all, and this game took place 10 years late, 10 years ago. So, also, I think the game takes place in Detroit. 1 second. Have my little information gatherer here. Where was Heavy Rain taking place? Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. I just got to get a little bit of information. Takes place in somewhere in New York. Wait, really? Somewhere in New York? That's the information I get? That's the information we get? Somewhere in New York? Whereas Detroit Becomes Human takes place in, well, Detroit! And the Beyond Two Souls takes place in, I don't even remember because we bounce around a lot. But somewhere in New York? Couldn't you have just said Harlem, New York, Brooklyn, New York, somewhere in New York? But saying somewhere in New York and it's not really explained? Okay, I know it's a small thing to kind of go off on, but details like that are important a bit. Oh, also one thing about Norman Jayden, he's got an addiction. A part of using the ARI is that it kind of causes some side effects. And so he'll have to take tryptophan, a drug called tryptophan every now and then. But in the game, you can choose to stop the addiction and not take them at all. And in one instant, it's going to matter a lot. And the fourth character we got is the PI, Scott Shelby, who is being asked by the parents of the victim, the family of the asked by the family of the victims to look into the case regardless. And he's a retired cop, and he's a great character. Every time we go somewhere with Scott, we are talking to a parent of a victim of the Origami Killer, which I kind of like. I like how we get to investigate as the father, as a journalist, as a FBI, and as a PI. Having 4 different versions of the same investigation bit all collide into one story, and they all meet each other at least once or another. And it is done really, really well. And then we have the Origami Killer, which I swear is one of the coolest villains I've seen in a video game, and the shock value is awesome. If you guys have seen my top 13 best video game boss villains, the killer's up there, so it's kind of a spoiler there. Although now that I think about it, that video was poorly done. That was one of my first videos, so maybe I'll redo it with some new villains in on it, maybe take some out. I might. But the Origami Killer is a great villain. His MO is to kidnap young boys, preteens, and hold them in a sewer, in a grate, in a warehouse with an open top. And he always kills in the months where there's the most rain. So October and November usually. And as the water goes up, the victim slowly drowns in the rainwater. So yeah, he uses the rain as a murder weapon, which is pretty horrific. But at the same time, it also gives the parents, the fathers, a chance to save this kid. So if we can get, and after the victim is dead, the killer brings them to a field and leaves them with orchids on their chest and an origami dog in their hand. And that is very symbolic to the killer. And I really appreciate the attention to detail there. So like I said, the game is choice-based. So depending on what character you are and the choices you make, the story can go a good number of ways. Either everyone lives in the end and big happy ending, or everyone dies and the killer gets away, or even worse endings. A good majority of the game is shown without what's the word I'm looking for? Without knowing the killer's identity, and that is discovered very later in the game, and I do enjoy it. And there's all these twists and turns and different paths to go, but not so much that it feels like that you got to play this over and over again in order to experience it all. That's a choice that you got to choose. Although, one thing I do love is that there are a bunch of trophies in this game that are optional. And depending on how you play the game. Like, there's one for following Sean's schedule and putting him to bed in a happy mood. What else? As Scott Shelby, you can get an achievement. Later in the game, you will find this rich dude who's been an ass to you and almost had you killed. If you choose to be merciful and give him his heart medication. As Norman Jaden, when you are confronting Mad Jack, if you survive the fight with Mad Jack, you get an achievement. As Madison, if at the club, while in one certain aspect, during the tease section, you have to take off no more than one piece of clothing during the segment. And yeah, a bunch of people are probably going to not do that, but hell, forget it. I'm not going to make a joke there. But all these trophies can be done throughout the game, especially during the challenges. Well, when I say challenges, I mean the trials that Ethan is sent to find a box and has 5 different origami figures in it. The bear, the butterfly, the lizard, the shark, and the mouse. And each one is tailor-made as a trial to see how far the father will go in order to save his son. The bear, you'll have to drive on incoming traffic. I mean, you can choose to do a safer route, or you can just rush through. The butterfly is to see how much you'll suffer by crawling through a vent full of broken glass and having to find your way out of the maze. The lizard, you will make a sacrifice and cut off a finger. Now, there's 2 different ways to do it. A smart way or the gruesome way, and you'll get a trophy depending. The shark, to see if you'll kill in order to save your son. And then the mouse is about if you'll take your own life, and you'll drink a poison that will kill you within a couple hours. Now, you don't need to complete every single one. I always fail the 4th one because I refuse to kill someone in this. But if you complete 4 out of the 5, you'll get enough code for the address. And if you listen to the clues, you can definitely find where Sean is. But once again, yeah, you will get different trophies for different actions that you take. And I do enjoy that. And I really hope in the next Quantic Dreams game, I really hope, because they've done crime thriller, they've done sci-fi, they've done supernatural. Now they need to do romance. And I really hope they do, because Quantic Dreams does take its time in making its games, but every time they do, the game is beautiful. Now, the game does have one of the longest sets of chapters I've played. It has exactly 52 chapters in this game, including the prologue, and it's all spread out through each character, where you will not be playing as one character for about an hour and then switch to another character and then go back to the previous character. It's all spread out with each of the 4 characters. So yeah, I really do enjoy Heavy Rain, and the climax at the end and the motive behind the Origami's motives are heartbreaking. Very, very heartbreaking, and it's definitely enjoyable. Not only that, the gameplay with each character definitely has its own moments, like with Jaden when you use the ARI system to investigate crime scenes and collect the evidence. And your choices in the game do affect the overall story. So it's not like not every choice will affect. Oh, but a majority of them do affect. And I forgot this one trophy called Perfect Crime, where you let everyone but the Origami killer die. You clean up every bit of evidence, and you let every character possible die. Well, some characters. There are some characters that you don't need to have die, but it's just there. And it's a trophy it's a gold trophy, and I refuse to do it because I can't play that way. I'm not that type of player. I always go for the good endings. I always do. Now, there are a bunch of QTE moments in this game, when it's the stressful situations, where it's the action scenes, and they're all well done. The game is paced well, so it feels like an actual crime drama show. And it doesn't feel like it's paced so much that you get bored, but it's done right with the appropriate amount of filler here and there. I don't have that much to say about this game. This might be one of my shortest game reviews because I love Heavy Rain so much, and it's an experience. It's a game that everyone should at least attempt to play. And it's just all fun. And it's a game that you will want to replay a good number of times to see if you can get a different ending or if you get different trophies. But at the same time, it's definitely a game that is worth a look if you're a big story-based fan, a crime fan. It's just a great game overall. So, yeah, this is definitely my shortest game review ever. But I'm okay with that because it's the end of the month, so I wanted to go out on a great game. And it just goes to show, I'm just going to say that games like this deserve a spot in anyone's gaming library. Everyone should play a game like this. To get away from the FPS shooter games and all the open world games, because just have a fun story to play through. And it's enjoyable too. So GamerK's final verdict for Heavy Rain, even though it's 10 years old, but it still holds up, it is an immaculate 8 out of 10. The game definitely could have been a 9, a 10 even. In my heart, it's a 10. But when you go through the whole game and... Now, you know what? Screw with it. My final verdict is a 9 out of 10. I just decided to give it the 9 because when you can remember so much about this game, Again, that it's a decade old, and no one had to tell me, hey, do you remember that crime game where you had to solve a serial killer? I immediately remember it. It's a classic game that sits in the back of people's minds, and it's a game that deserves to be in the spotlight again. As a retro game that the company Quantic Dreams needs to start on another game, because after their first 3 games, I'm ready for another adventure. And I really hope they go into a romance game. Don't have a serial killer in on it, but have like maybe some drama going on with maybe 3 characters. And that's it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't my longest video, but it definitely wasn't my shortest. Like, comment, subscribe down below. I really hope you enjoyed me talking about Heavy Rain as much as I did, as much as I could. Join me next time where we start off the month of March by going over one of my favorite underdogs. This is GamerK, logging out.